Okay, in this video we're going to be talking about note and rest values. Now the one thing that you need to understand is that all of note values are based upon mathematical principles. Equivalent fractions, for the most part, is what it's based on. So you need to understand that in music, when we're talking about the whole thing, that whole thing in its most basic form is divided into 4 equal parts. So therefore, if you have a whole note, which is just a round circle, and I give you, if you think of this as a pizza, if I give you the whole pizza, well then how many pieces are you getting? Well, you're getting 4 pieces. And the same thing with this. The whole note gets 4 beats. And its corresponding rest is the whole rest. Looks like an upside down hat. It's always located below the 4th line of the staff. So it would be located right here is where you'd find the whole rest. And for the most part, it's always by itself in the bar because it gets the whole thing. So it's the only note value that needs to be in the bar. Now let's continue on with that mathematical principle. If we have the whole note and then we add a stem to it on the right hand side, if you remember when we were talking about stem direction, this is known as the half note. Well, just like in math, if you only get half of the whole, well then you're only getting 2 pieces. Same thing, that's the half note gets 2 beats. And the half rest looks like a hat. Now that's a pretty simplistic way of putting it, but if it helps you to remember it, there you go. It looks like a hat. And in music, the half, this is the whole rest. And in music, the half rest is located above the third line. And of course, if you were going to be putting the same number of rests in there, well then in 4/4 time, you'd have to put 2 of them. Because they get 2 beats each, 2 of them would make 4 beats, which is what the time signature says. That there has to be 4 beats in a bar. Now let's continue on this concept. We have the whole note, we have the half note, adding a stem, and then by filling it in, we now have what is known as the quarter note. Well, if you continue on with this, you've been following this logic, then the quarter note only gets a quarter of the whole thing. Well, a quarter of that whole thing would be 1 piece or 1 beat. So the quarter note gets 1 beat, and the quarter rest, there are several ways of drawing it, like a slender bolt that got turned around, whatever works for you. Okay, that's basically what the quarter rest looks like, and it gets 1 beat. There are the common values that you need to know for the first assignment with regards to rhythm. There's one other that you need to know here, which you won't run into right away in music when you're playing, but nonetheless, please be aware of it. It's the half note with a dot beside it. Now, it's known as the dotted half note. There is no corresponding rest. When we're writing a dotted half rest, all we do is we write a half rest and a quarter rest. Okay, that's how we don't use the dot when it comes to rests. Okay. Now, the dotted half note, of course, in the progression of note values here, then one would conclude, okay, it gets 3 beats. But then, of course, is the question, why? Well, the answer is quite simple. You have the half note. We know the half note gets 2 beats. The dot always gets half of the note value. Remember that. Dot always means half of some description. So therefore, half of 2 beats is 1. And that's why the dotted half note gets 3 beats. However, please don't get trapped by this. Then the question would be, how many beats then would a dotted whole note get? Well, using the same idea, a whole note gets 4 beats. The dot gets half of that value, which is 2. Therefore, the dotted whole note gets 6 beats. Be careful. Many people conclude, oh, well then the dot always gets 1 beat. No, it doesn't. It gets half of the value of the note it's beside. So therefore, that's why here it gets 1 beat, but here it would get 2 beats, which then gives us the full 6 beats if it's a dotted whole note. Now in the questions which follow on the assignment, you're going to run into, first of all, equations. Such as if you have a half note plus a quarter note plus another quarter note, how many beats does that equal? Well, it equals 4 beats. And you put in a numerical value to answer those questions. Other questions on the assignment are going to be, well, if you have a half note and a quarter note and a quarter note and a whole note, that's equal to how many quarter notes? Well, the answer is, okay, there's 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 4 makes 8. It's 8 quarter notes, because quarter note gets 1 beat. However, if we had that exact same question, but instead what it's asking is, how many half notes is that equal to? Well, the answer would be, okay, there's 1, there's 2, and there's 2 more right there, so that would be 4. It would equal 4 half notes. That same question could be asked, and the question would be, well then, how many whole notes is this equal to? Well, there's 1 whole note. You'd have to group it in groups of 4. There's a second whole note, so the answer is 2 whole notes. Make sure that you read all of the questions carefully. On the assignment, they specifically ask you to put in either the proper number or the number of notes equal to the equation that they give you. But everything, I've given you examples at the beginning of each question. Just follow that example. Do the same thing for every question which follows it. So hopefully this will help you with what's required for the assignment, note, and rest values. Again, if you have any questions, please come and see me or ask Mr. Vernon or Mr. Hutton. Any of the music teachers will be able to answer your question with regards to note and rest values.